I guess jumping into a quick question. Um, One of like the highlights of like Ava and Beatrice is of course like their puns. It's something that they share together. Who came up with those? And like on the same line, who came up with "Dude, I'm a Nun" from Chameleon in season 2?
All the puns, I believe, were just room ideas. I think everyone just sort of had like, I believe at one point in season 1 we even had like a wall of nun puns that we wanted to use, and so we were just like slowly filtering them into episodes. So those were all room ideas. And I think "Dude, I'm a Nun," I think that was David Hayter, I think.
That's funny.
Adrian, I'm gonna have to send over nun puns to the phrase team. I think we need that one for Twitter.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So there are nun puns that I think we have not used yet. So if season 3 happened, there would be more, I'm sure.
That is good to know. This is a fan question that was submitted. Can you talk about Beatrice's relationship with Camilla and Ava this season? This fan felt that there was some parallels there.
It is interesting. I think that the parallel aspect between Beatrice and Ava and Beatrice and Camilla is sort of that Beatrice's relationship with both of them changed and developed throughout the season. Like I think for Ava and Beatrice, it was more so that Ava was becoming the warrior nun, like, and accepting the mantle of that responsibility. And Beatrice, in realizing that she loved her, also had to realize that that meant letting her be who she was meant to be. And unfortunately, letting Ava be who she meant to be means, maybe she has to let her go. And so I think that was an aspect of their relationship. And I think when you look at Beatrice and Camilla, there are some parallels there in that, like, Camilla is coming into her own, and she's not really a rookie anymore. She's been through a lot, and she's been holding down the fort of the OCS this whole time while everyone's gone into hiding in season 2. And so when Beatrice and Camilla reconnect, it's like Beatrice has to learn to trust Camilla and to let her be her own person. And so I think that in a lot of ways, like, Beatrice's arc in season 2 is sort of just like letting go. And then also kind of discovering for herself, like, what's left after I let go of, these 2 responsibilities that I've taken on. So I think that's definitely an aspect of it for sure.
Do you like breaking fans' hearts?
No. But I like doing my job, so oh well.
Adrian, in with the heavy hitting questions.
Yeah.
I immediately got sad after you were done, so
yeah. I just kept thinking of the whole scene where Ava asked Beatrice to run, basically run away with her, and that rejection. I was just like, did you do that? Did you have a hand in that?
That was David and I's joint episode, episode 7. So yes, and that was something that as a room, like, we all pitched on, that we were like, there should be a moment where, like, Ava offers Beatrice like everything that she would ever want, like, run away with me, just like, let's just leave this all behind, let's just go and like live. And like Beatrice has to say no, so yes, that's something that we all discussed for sure.
And in the writer's room, why did she say no?
A lot of reasons, but I think that ultimately it's kind of, like I said, like, Beatrice realizes that Ava has to be who she is, and who she is the warrior nun. And, it goes back to Camilla's line to her, I think in 5, in my episode, where she's like, warrior nuns, they never last. And it goes back to that. Like it's the core of like Beatrice loves Ava so much that she's gonna let her be. And that's what that means. So yeah.
I'm just crying.
You asked. I don't know, man. You asked. Okay.
I guess since we're talking already about Beatrice, this one kind of like fits in. But when thinking about season 1, episode 7, where Beatrice is just like about to leave, like she's about to like, we expect to not see her anymore, but suddenly she's just like, you know what, I'm just going to ignore my orders, which is to like leave this particular chapter of the OCS and go back to like Cat's Cradle. Like, what would you say like her thought process was behind that? Like, would you say it was more focused on the mission? Like, this feels like the right thing to do given the information that I have? Or was she actually kind of like thinking more about Ava? Because it feels like by that episode, we're already kind of like, oh, there might be something here.
I think it was both. Like, I think that Beatrice, I don't think in season 1, I think Beatrice knew that she liked Ava probably subconsciously, but I don't know how aware she was of it. I think, and if she was aware of it, she's probably a little bit in denial, like, because she's the type of person who, the whole reason she became a nun is because she's like suppressing this part of herself that clearly has caused some trouble in her past that we don't know about. And so I think that she was probably in denial regarding her feelings for Ava. But that said, even when you're in denial, those feelings still affect your actions, right? Like even if they're subconscious. And so I definitely think that Ava was part of it. But I also think that Beatrice in that moment was just kind of like, these are my sisters and I can't give up on them. Like if I give up on them, then who does that make me? And so I think that was part of it too. But to answer your question, yes, both.
This is another fan question. They were wondering the medallion that Sister Shannon gave Shotgun Mary in season 1. Is that the same medal that Beatrice is carrying or leaves when right before she leaves the convent?
I don't know. It would be cool if it was. Okay. But I do not know. That honestly might be a Simon question, because I'm not sure if in production, like the two of them are the same, but I hope so, because that would be sick.
Do we know where Beatrice goes after leaving the convent? And I guess the second part of that question, what last name do you think she would pick or would go with her? I guess that's more so a you question.
So at the end of season 2, you mean, like, where does she go?
Yes.
I don't think we know. I mean, where do I think she would go? Yeah. I feel like Ava's back, obviously, because of the glowing sword. So I'm thinking that they have a planned place that they're going to meet up at. So my thought is she's going to go find Ava and take her up on, that offer of running away together. But who knows? I don't. There's nothing official and there's no canon in what I just said.
Disclaimer.
Disclaimer. No canon. Just vibes, okay? Just
That's where
vibes.
all the fan fiction takes over.
Exactly.
How about a last name?
Oh, a last name, yeah.
Oh, like a last name? I don't know. I don't think we ever gave Beatrice a last name.
No.
But also I think, if there were to be a season 3, that would be something that would be really interesting to explore, is like actually getting the story of Beatrice's past and like who her family was. And, maybe we find out the reason that she dropped her last name and that she doesn't claim it. Like, I don't know, but I just feel like there's so much to mine in terms of like her story and what we don't know about her. So yeah, it would be cool if she took Ava's last name. Just saying. Anyway, not canon. Not canon. Vibes. Just vibes.
All right, so changing this up a little bit. This was definitely a question that has come up a lot. I don't know if you're familiar with the Father Vincent fan club.
There's a fan club. Can I join? I'm a Vincent.
Yes,
personally.
please. So during season 1, Vincent said that he had sent Shannon essentially to Duretti. Now, I don't remember if she had sent him directly to him, or he had sent her. In season 1, Vincent says that he talked to Shannon about everything she was having suspicions about. And it's implied that she eventually went to Duretti. Now, was the guilt that Vincent showed when he's telling Mary, was this a pretense? Part of the reason we're curious was whether or not he was manipulating Mary into suspecting Duretti. But there's also kind of the question of, Duretti knew that they were going to come to the Vatican at some point. He knew that they were going to arrive. He had Sister Crimson and all of her crew be there. Like, they were on site. So when his ring glows, even specifically says they're down in the catacombs. Those are very different locations from where Conclave is. And so the question becomes, we're told, he even says to Mother Superior, what bones? What are you talking about? But it implies he knew there was something down there, even if he didn't know what it was. So the question is, how much was Duretti, we really love him in season 2 to an extent, but how much of it was truly he just wanted the power and he knew that people were going to try and come stop him?
I mean, I think that for Duretti, he didn't really know the whole Adriel story. So I don't think he knew that there was an angel or even, anything like that under the Vatican. Like, I think he was like fully unaware. But I do think that Duretti is power hungry, and he's just sort of like any other politician. He wanted the stature, he wanted the power, and he was going to do anything to get it. And I think that his thought was, I'm not going to let these little nuns come in here and mess up me becoming the Pope. LOL, not going to happen. And so I think that was his whole drive, was just like maintaining this new power that he had been chasing after, his whole life. And I think that Vincent had ulterior motives, and he was playing everyone and manipulating everyone the whole time. So yeah.
For sure. I mean, that's kind of the whole premise of Vincent's character. And even in an interview that Adrian had done with Tristan, he's like, he is who he is. He's not going to change his spots.
Yeah, exactly.
Talking about catacombs and the conclave and the church, how much research did you actually have to do regarding the church for this particular, I guess throughout the seasons? And also another question that I was wondering, when it comes to the Bible verses, are those picked after the episode is written, or do you actually use those kind of as an inspiration to write the episode from there?
Great question. So we did a lot of research, in the room in general, Simon and everyone, we did so much research. I downloaded the Bible app. My parents would be proud, but come on, man. We were in the trenches, okay? And not everything is exactly accurate. Obviously we had to make up a lot and change a lot for the purposes of making a superhero story based off a comic book, but we did try to infuse the show as much as possible with the realism that we could find from the research that we did. And so that was definitely part of it. And then in terms of the Bible verses, those were things that we came up with after we had written the episode. So we would write the episode and then be like, okay, is there a Bible verse that sort of encompasses the theme or encompasses something about this episode that we want to highlight, or that we feel like is, you know, would be like a good title for this episode. And so that is something that came after the writing was complete, just because we didn't want to pick a Bible verse and then tie ourselves to that particular verse. You know, we wanted to find the story and figure out what we wanted for the characters in that episode. And then once we were sure that all of that was solid, it's like, okay, what Bible verse fits this? So yeah, that's how we did that.
Yeah, it sounds like it gives you a lot more room to like write the story, because like you said, like if you pick the title first, then you have to stick with the theme of that title. So that's very interesting.
Yeah, we wanted the freedom.
Back to your episode that you wrote, episode 5, when that line that Mother Superior says to Yasmin, like, never apologize for your gifts. Is that something that was told to you?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I think that it's not something that I can remember ever being told to me specifically, but it's definitely something that someone needed to tell me a long time ago, because I feel like in a lot of ways, like, I relate to feeling imposter syndrome, you know, and feeling like I am a hack. But I think a lot of people feel that way in terms of like when you're doing something you love and you're being, you know, you're moderately successful at it, you immediately are like, what if I'm fake? Like, what if I actually suck and no one is telling me and everyone's just being nice? Like, what if they find out that I don't know what I'm doing? And like, I feel like the real tea is that nobody knows what they're doing and everyone is flying by the seat of their pants and there's no rules and everything's made up and the points don't matter. And so I think that idea of like not apologizing for your gifts is just something that's really universal, because I think a lot of people feel that way. But yeah, just sort of leaning into the confidence and the strength that you have inside. So yeah, that's what I would say.
I mean, it's a very powerful line that I think resonated with a lot of people. Now, did you put the wink in the script, or is that something that's added afterwards?
I wrote the wink.
Oh,
In the script, yes.
that's awesome.
I was like, I really want to see like this little twinkle of like another side to Mother Superior, because she's such like she's a very powerful and very hardened character. But I think like beyond all of that, she's like this lovely, very sweet woman who cares a lot for the young women in her charge. And so I just thought like her giving a little wink, it just like shows like, you know, that she still has that like young woman inside of her too, and it just like comes out in different intervals. So yeah.
Who wrote the line in the line where Vincent, you know, he gives Ava the crown and he says, "I was hoping against hope." I love that line. And I just think it tells so much about us as a fandom too. You know, we're hoping against hope to save the show. We're hoping against hope for various things we've all experienced in life. I think it's such a beautiful line. I was curious who wrote it.
Which episode is that from? I remember that line, but I forget what episode it's from.
I thought it was 7.
Yeah,
It was 7, yeah.
It's Hater. Hoping against hope. Because I was like,
I need to talk to him, apparently, you know. A lot of my questions are like, it's David.
Because I was like,
I love that.
He puts the crown on her in 2 different episodes. So I was like, it was either Suzanne or David. And it was David. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome. All right. So in episode, is it 7 in season 1? Well, we see essentially the fallout of Duretti's overhaul of the OCS. He's relocating Beatrice. He's relocating Vincent to Florida. We all sympathize with that pain, but he's also kicking Mary from the cat's cradle. Now, the question becomes then, was there a kind of discussion about the fallout between Mother Superior and Father Vincent? Because it's really a role reversal in some ways of, you know, he's essentially like, I really cannot believe you're giving in to this, but she's also going, this is what needs to be done. So what kind of discussion went into that?
A lot of discussion. So episode 7 of season 1 is the episode I co-wrote with Suzanne Kiley, who's amazing. And so in the room when we were breaking that episode, we were like, we kind of wanted to see Mother Superior take on Vincent's role. And for him, it's like he's almost getting a little bit of a taste of his own medicine, right? Where he's like, what are you doing? And it's like, for her, it's like, well, I mean, I've been asking you that question for like 6 months. And so here's my answer. And so I we wanted to sort of establish like a tension between them. And also, I believe at that point, we had decided that like, okay, Vincent is our secret big bad. And so we were also reverse tracking, okay, why is this a bad thing for him? And, obviously Duretti getting involved with the OCS is messing up his plans for getting Adriel out of the church basement. And so all of those things were kind of percolating around that scene. And so that we discussed that a lot in the room. Yeah.
So there's a lot of discussion around Father Vincent's tattoos. One of the questions, is since he can communicate with Adriel via the Divinium tattoos, were the tattoos ever meant to be a protection from maybe the wraiths and their possession? Was Vincent maybe possessed via the Divinium, or were the tattoos simply a conduit only? Because we know that Adriel was definitely manipulating him in some way. Now, again, there is the concept that, he didn't change his spots. He's going to make his own mistakes. He's going to falter. He's going to fail a lot. But how much did the tattoos play into that, if anything?
We intended, yeah, no, that's a great question. We intended the tattoos to be a conduit. And so it's sort of the same thing as little baby Michael also in season 1, where it's like, because of the Divinium in his blood, he can hear Adriel's voice. And it's kind of the same thing with Vincent. It's like he's got these Divinium tattoos like in his skin, and because of that, he has this connection with what he thinks is God, what he thinks is the divine. And so I think it's cool that you were kind of like, oh, could it protect him from the wraiths and from possession? And like, you would think yes, but ironically, like, he is possessed, just like psychologically, And so I think that's what's really interesting about his character, is that he thinks he's hearing God. But LOL, maybe not.
Was there ever a discussion of when Father Vincent may have gotten his tattoos? Because we know from season 1 he was part of the cartel, and we know he has connections to antiquities. Mm-hmm. So I guess there's partly a question of, did he get them before he joined, or was this something after?
I think we thought that he got them after. So like when he started his new life, and when he stopped drinking, and when he basically like became a Christian, that like he got these tattoos as sort of like a symbol of his devotion. But I don't know if we like fully ever explained it in the show, or if we ever landed on it, but I believe that is something we discussed in the room, that like this was post his old life. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
The OFV thanks you.
I mean, listen, I am a Vincent apologist myself. So I really love that character. Like, I always tell people, I feel like I'm like an Ava Beatrice shipper and a Vincent stan. So like, I was just as trash as you guys are in the room. So don't worry, it's fine.
he tells the story of when he found out that Vincent was the bad guy, and like they were all stuck in Spain because of COVID in a house. Mm-hmm. And when they were reading through for that episode, like apparently he got razzed pretty good by the rest of the crew.
Yeah. Like I remember like in the room, because Vincent was not the bad guy at first in season 1. We had not planned it that way initially, but then I think someone pitched it, and I forget who pitched it. It might have been Matt Bozak, or might have been David, might have been Suzanne. It could have been any of us. I truly do not remember who pitched it. 2018, long time. But someone was like, what if Vincent was working for Adriel the whole time? And we all laughed. And then we all started thinking, wait, like, what if he was? And so we started like tracking it back through the episodes, trying to see, does it work? Like, does it break anything? Like, what do we have to change? Like, what? And, you know, we're like putting beats on the board. Like, we'd like look like crazy people. But like at some point we were like, actually, this is kind of fire. Like, if Vincent turns out to be like influenced by Adriel this whole time. And I remember we pitched it to Simon and he was like, yeah, that's sick. We have to do that. Like, Simon gave it the okay. We were like, yeah, Vincent's the bad guy. But
Yeah,
it was a joke pitch at first.
well, you see Mary's reaction at the end. I think for so many, that was like all of us, even if you had hints of guessing it, like truly, I mean, even Tristan says he didn't know until a certain point. It's like,
Yeah.
that was really powerful, probably for an actor to be like, okay, everything you've done, we're switching it. And it's
Yeah.
like, oh, that's a lot of trust for the showrunner. And I think that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, for sure. That I like I said, I forget who pitched it, but it turned out to be just so great for the show. So yeah.
That's really interesting. I was wondering about the Divinium tattoos as well, because when I think about timelines, I'm like, did he just by chance get Divinium tattoos on his previous life? Like, that's too much coincidence. But the fact that it seems like he might have gotten them after that is really, that makes a lot more sense. That where my mind was going. In terms of him being the bad guy, yeah, it was one of those things that I didn't see coming, but once it was there, like it's like you said, like you can backtrack everything. Like it made sense. Like I like to pride myself in like being able to see these things coming. I was not able to see it coming, so I think that is excellent execution.
I'm glad you guys liked it. I feel like after the pitch, I remember us tracking it back and realizing like we almost don't have to change anything in the story, like, because we still play him as the good guy and just keep everything as we planned it and as we've written it, and then just the twist at the end works. But we just had to go through and justify for ourselves, okay, so if he's working for Adriel, why does he do this and why does he say this, why and why? But I think it was just because we didn't change anything and we just kept the script as we had planned for him to be like a normal good guy, that like maybe that's why nobody saw it coming. So yeah.
Yeah, and it makes for a really interesting like character arc for season 2. Like I still don't trust him, but we'll see.
He has a long road back.
But yeah, I guess like one of the questions that I wanted to ask, we were in a space, I feel like at the beginning of like this whole process with Dennis Rovira, and if I remember correctly, he directed episode 5 as well. Yes. And during that conversation with him, he mentioned that there was a scene with Ava and Beatrice where they were essentially talking in Jillian's garden. And like everyone went crazy because it was kind of like improv and stuff like that. And like the scene was there and it was kind of filmed, but like it never really like reached our eyes. Was there a script basically written for that scene? Since he mentioned that a lot of it was improv, like from like just happening on the spot. And if there's a script, would there be a possibility that we can see it?
I believe I remember writing a scene in Jillian's garden for Ava Beatrice. But I think it kind of got just lost in the process because, you know, that episode is so big and so much happens that like you don't really have time for like every beat. But also I think the great thing about our actors is that by season 2, they knew their characters so well that I think there were certain instances where like they didn't really need like to go off the exact lines in the script. They could kind of intuit what their characters might say, which I think is so cool. And so I don't know for sure if it's something you guys could see. That would be a Simon question, I think. Just because I don't want to get sued by Netflix. But possibly, I don't know, would be cool.
Is there a gist of what kind of conversation they were having that you could say?
I think they were talking about the mission, and also I think subtext, like it was kind of about Beatrice and like their relationship a little bit, because you know at the end of episode 5, like they have that moment where like Ava falls and Beatrice thinks that she lost her, and so I think it was kind of like foreshadowing a little bit of that too. But like I said, I think it ultimately got cut because we didn't really need it. But yeah, well, I don't know. Simon question, because out of my hands.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a lot of it could have been covered by what we call the breakup scene, where essentially Beatrice is like, we cannot run away together.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like I think it's probably a good scene, just maybe a little bit redundant. So yeah.
And so going back to Ava and Beatrice, I know that it was planned from very beginning to have them be together, but it was such a subtle, slow burn. Was that a Simon sitting there saying, this is how it's going to be, or was that a collective decision?
What can I say? It was a collective decision. And you know, I think that there was I don't want to go on record because there were some things happening behind the scenes that also kind of made us have to make it a bit of a slow burn, without speaking in specifics. But that said, I think that as a room, we were just really passionate about telling this love story in as authentic as a way as we could. And I think that's what we did, you know, like we were just really committed to exploring like the slow buildup of them falling in love. And I feel like that's something that you just don't often see in general on television. Like I feel like a lot of characters, like regardless of their sexuality, like we just immediately like put them together so quickly. And it's like we didn't want to do that. Like we wanted their relationship to develop naturally, as real relationships sometimes do. And you know, I think that's hopefully reflected in the show. So yeah.
If you could write a fight scene in season 3, who would it be and why would it be Mother Superior and Father Vincent kicking ass and taking out the enemies?
I mean, that would be a very sick fight scene, and I would both love to watch it and or write it. That would be incredibly lit. We're in. But I think if I were to write a fight scene with any 2 characters, it's a really good question. I truly don't know. There's so many great options. Personally, and I know that everyone would be mad at me, but I would love to see Ava and Beatrice have a fight. Come on, man. Like I think because there's also just so much like tension and emotion between them that like, and they've never fought like that before. And so I just feel like having them at odds would just be a really interesting, powerful, emotional fight scene.
Simon, way back with Angie Chats, he even said, you know, if we get that season 3, the fans might not necessarily want it because it's going to be tough, or however he worded it. I always think about that. I'm like, it's going to be rough. What happens when she comes back from the other side? We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. Is she the same? Is she different? We don't know. So,
just have like 2 more questions for you. We've been going through the cancel your gays. I mean, hardcore, another cycle of it. And you're also in the middle of writer's strike. How do you keep going? I mean, how do you stay positive and know that you're going to make change?
It's a great question. I think that the one thing that we always have is solidarity with each other. You know, I feel like it's really easy to feel like you're alone through all of it. Like when you think about cancel your gays, like when I was a queer kid growing up in Kentucky, I didn't see myself mirrored on television very much. Like you didn't see a lot of queer characters. But what gives you hope and what gives you power is that you weren't alone in that there were so many other people who were going through the same thing. And I think that's the same thing with the writer's strike. It's like the great thing is that we are all out there together, like fighting for what we need to keep writing a career. And so I think that that's what helps you keep going, and that's what gives you hope is the people around you who are going through the same struggle, and just to always remember that you're not alone and our power is in the collective. You know, we're all together.
Wow, you should be a writer.
But see, the problem is I feel like I write better than I speak. So I'm really glad it's coming out coherently, because sometimes I'm just like, boy, that would have been so much better if I'd written that.
No, it was awesome. So, what future plans do you have?
Well, for the strike, I was working on a new show for Sony Amazon, which is really cool. So I will hopefully be going back to that room when the strike is over. I also am working on my own projects on the side. Like I have a feature that I'm working on and a new pilot that I'm working on that I'm excited about. And then just collaborations with friends. So yeah, lots of things to look forward to in the future, post-strike, fingers crossed, definitely.
Wow. Do you have, because you said that you were like in high school that you directed as well. Is that a future possibility?
Absolutely. Like even in college, I directed a short film that went to some festivals and got some awards. And so directing is definitely something I want to keep doing. And I'm hoping that for my feature project, I'll get the opportunity to direct it. So we'll see. It'd be very cool.
Well, you have a whole fandom behind you now. So we have a whole team.
Thank you guys. It's very sweet.
Seriously.
We keep saying anyone that's interacted with us is stuck with us.
I mean, I can't think of a better fandom to be stuck with, to be honest.
And then, like, what have you thought about the Save Warrior Nun fan campaign, and any message you would like to send to the fans?
I mean, like I said, the response to Warrior Nun has truly, like, for me personally, just been so overwhelming. Like I said, it was my first ever writing job. And so I just never could have imagined like something that I got to work on getting to reach and touch so many people. So it's like, it's just such an honor for me and so humbling to me that all of you are so passionate about the show and the story, and that it spoke to you. And so I guess I just would say, you know, thank you all for all of your support. It really means a lot to each and every one of us, and we're just always so overjoyed by how much you guys love the show and how much vigor you have in fighting for it. It really does mean a lot to us. So I would just say thank you, and y'all are insane, and I love you.
You are insane.
It's okay because I'm insane too. So you see why I relate.
Wow, this has been awesome. Well, we'll keep supporting you from the sidelines, and thank you so much for taking your time this Saturday to talk to us.
Thank you so much for having me. You guys are so cool. All the questions were awesome, and yeah, I love talking to Warrior Nun people. It's the best. So thank you so much for having me.
We have a great day.
Yes, you guys too.
Okay, bye.
Bye.